The last Greek period we're looking at is the Hellenistic. The Hellenistic period starts with the death of Alexander the Great in 323 and lasts nearly 3 centuries until the double suicide of Cleopatra and her consort Mark Antony in 30 BCE, after the decisive defeat against Antony's rival Augustus. Now, during this time, Alexander the Great takes a fairly small army. We're talking along the lines of about 20,000 men, and basically conquers all of Persia as well as some other places that we don't typically talk about. But it takes him all the way to the Indus River. In fact, the Greeks are actively trading with India, and they give India something of great importance. Up until this point, Buddhism is all about these forms that are metaphorical. You would never see an image of the Buddha before the Greeks show up there in around 150-ish BCE. The Greeks bring their figurative sculpture into India and encourage them to create images of the Buddha. Thus we get Greco-Indian forms, this hybridization that gives us the modern images of the Buddha that we see today. Now, after he conquers Persia, of course, he never makes it back home. He dies on the trip. So after he dies, this entire gigantic empire that he has created, and empire is not the right word, but it was the closest thing you could describe while he's alive, breaks up. And we get these massive kingdoms. These kingdoms are ruled over by the generals that basically split up the territory. The Ptolemies, of course, famously in Egypt, for example. So these Greek kings will divide up this far-reaching empire, and we will see continuous warfare between the various states. Now, the closest thing that the Greeks come to an empire is really this. Maybe under Alexander it kind of truly is, but even then, it's not quite what you would think of as an empire. What draws it together is language, culture, and religion. Those 3 things that are typically Greek at the time. What Alexander does is basically he replaces whoever is the highest person in power in that area with one of his generals, who he has married a local. Thus, the locals want to become Greek. They become Hellenistic, in other words, culturally Greek. We also see Persian influence coming in, for example, on architecture, as we're going to see, or on sculpture, bringing in ideas of cosmopolitanism, bringing in ideas of a certain lifelikeness that we tend to think of as typifying Hellenistic sculpture.